When I was invited to participate in the show, and when the curators VHV told me about their idea of using the fanon and this kind of ways of looking at how colonialism has shifted and is being reperformed in different ways today, I had the thought to make a kind of audio-visual version of an essay I had written several years earlier. And the essay was about the Druze community, a religious minority who are transnationally based in the Levant area of the Middle East, so between in the mountains of Lebanon, Jordan, Syria and Israel. Why I thought it was relevant to apply this essay to this context is because the Druze are living really in the borders between these nations, and the ways in which they negotiate the different kind of reductive kind of nationalist forces in which they operate is very interesting, and it's often linguistically or vocally performed, and this is something which I'm interested in most of my works. So it takes two stories at one time from the Druze who are living basically in the borderlands between Israel, Palestine and Syria. The two stories are, one, the Druze interpreters who are conscripted into the Israeli military service, who work as translators for the military courts. So they have, because they speak both Arabic and Hebrew, they're kind of operating as this filter within the legal system. And as Israeli soldiers facing the enemy, but also performing their proximity to that enemy by shared language and other types of things. So this kind of border negotiation or performance of the border was very interesting. And contrasting that with the Shouting Valley, which is in the Golan Heights, where Druze families have gathered on both sides for the last 40 years to shout across to each other on the other side. And so, as you might be able to see behind me, while we have this story of the interpreters, these shouts keep on bursting through the piece. So every time a shout happens, there's a kind of, it opens an image. The image is connected to the opacity of the image opacity is connected to the shout. So imagine it goes, whoa!
Now the sound is off.
And now the sound is off. So what the actual video is, it's a mobile phone footage of an event that happened in 2011 in May, when protesters gathered on either side of the Shouting Valley. And this time it wasn't only the kind of voice which crossed the border. Both the Syrian protesters stormed the border and actually entered Israel for the first time. So it's really a moment where the piece ends with this kind of breach of the border, and it ends with a kind of questioning really the resistance of the voice and the capacity of the voice for resistance and transgression of these kind of borders. For me, I always try to use the kind of window of listening voice as a way to think about different forms of kind of political crisis, action, and negotiation. So for me, I was interested for a long time about the role of the voice in law, for example. The fact that one has to kind of testify, they must give their voice in these processes, and what that means. And so therefore the kind of voice of the interpreter in this piece, what's so important for me is that he's speaking in a site where speech acts. And therefore we can really sort of, we can see the kind of weight placed on that speech in that space, whereby decisions are made upon people's lives, and whereby the mode of negotiating that space is the voice, and is necessarily so.